Absolutely. I think those 2 days of rest that we got helped us just kind of replenish our sources, and we got to get off of our feet. The boys played KU. I think maybe two or three of us actually went to the game. Everyone else stayed home and just watched from home. It was really nice to have that time, especially since school just started, so we had a couple days to really get on top of our stuff before we start traveling again. But we worked on just we did a lot of skill work, a lot of developmental stuff, a lot of post-to-post things, going over offense, just the usual, but it was nice.
Was it tougher taking that break coming off a loss and knowing you're living with that how many ever days?
Yeah, I don't know about for everyone else, but I'm pretty sure. Actually, I do know. The energy was we were like, okay, you know what, we need to lock back in and focus. Our days off, usually we'll all go get our nails done and do stuff, and some of us still did, but it just was more of a time to reflect and think, okay, what do we need to do from here on out for the rest of conference to prepare and be ready?
What do you feel like, because y'all obviously got off to the 3-0 start in Big 12, some good road wins, and then, have had a tougher stretch. What do you feel like's been the difference, and what do y'all need to get back to?
I feel like we need to focus back in. We always do a really good job of preparing for games. Coach Tony or whoever has scout that week, we go over their plays endlessly. We make sure everyone knows how to guard every position, what the expectations are, both offensively and defensively. But I think us as players, we need to lock in more and really focus in on those assignments, because there's been the past few games, the games that have been close to difference has been us missing assignments and guarding plays correctly or us guarding things incorrectly.
Brianna Scott really carries the load for them on the rebounding aspect. Do you think y'all might have an advantage with, you and everybody else that can get on the boards?
Absolutely. That's been an emphasis the past few days in practice as well. Just being really physical and blocking out and finishing plays instead of kind of looking and being like, okay, is she going to go get it, box out, hit, and go get, instead of waiting for somebody else to go get the ball.
Coach mentioned that you guys kind of got to take it upon yourselves to attack offensively, and specifically Jaden kind of get back in that rhythm of being a scorer. Is that something you guys have focused on, just not her, but as a team?
Absolutely. We've done a lot of, we like to call it half to two. So we'll do offense, defense, or defense, offense, defense. But the past few days we've been really trying to attack the zone. We worked on against the zone, attacking the gaps, and then also in man, just playing more downhill and getting more aggressive. We usually have more points off of just our aggressive downhill drives and get to the free throw line more. So we've been working on that a lot.
Tech's kind of known for having rowdy fans. Do you enjoy that when you're on the road? Does that bother you? How do you kind of approach that?
I think it's fun, any sort of energy that you can get. We always have a great turnout of our fans, I'd say too. But just the energy overall, I feel like I feed off of that. We feed off of that as a team. No matter if they're yelling at us or whatever, we take that and we run with it. So I'm excited for it.
Bella, Nikki mentioned that it seems like you and some of Tech's freshmen, you and Bugs, are kind of trading off freshmen of the week. Are you excited to finally get a chance to see them and play against them?
Absolutely. I'm pretty good friends with Bailey Maupin too, so I'm excited to get to play her. But they're really talented. We're really talented, so it'll be a good freshman matchup, but overall matchup for the whole team too.
Bella, you talked about the physical break, like a couple days off. Is there a benefit to kind of a mental break also?
Absolutely. Especially, like I said, with school starting, to focus back in and just take some time for yourself. Those couple of days, I'm not going to lie, I went and got my nails done, got my toes done, but just took some time to kind of sit and just enjoy a little break before we had to get right back into it.
Are y'all approaching this as like a must-win situation?
Every game's a must-win for us, so yeah. Nothing ever changes with our mindset. We take it one game at a time, and every game's the game that we should win. So.
Seems like Jamie has kind of taken a little bit bigger of a role on the offensive side. What have you seen from her in this stretch and over the past 5 games?
She's been a lot more confident in her shot. I think she still is working on getting things to fall, but we've been, I don't know if you've noticed in our offensive execution, flares, whatever we can to get her the ball. And we just believe in her, so she's just got to be confident and knock it down.
Thanks, Bella.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bella. Good to see the nails. Nikki, what y'all kind of work on for just this week practice?
Yeah, I think we started, we took 2 days off. Wednesday was very much a, refocus on things that we need to do, not necessarily having anything to do with Texas Tech, but, really just what we're doing. Hang on. Hey, sit. And then obviously then yesterday we started to kind of pick back up on what do they do well, what are we going to have to defend, where do we see the openings defensively, are they going to play us a mixture of 1-3-1 and 2-3 and man-to-man, and so, kind of tried to refocus them, give them a break, refocus them on basic fundamental stuff, and then really start to dive into Texas Tech yesterday and today.
What do you see from Tech?
Really versatile. I mean, it kind of depends on the game. They can go big and really try to play, ball side triangle action and throw it inside. They can play 5 guards, which is what they've been starting, and really try to stretch you out and attack you off the bounce. And they run a million different sets. And the unique part about them is there's teams that run a lot of sets, but you kind of know where everyone's going to be. 1 minute Bryn Gerlich's basically playing the 1, and the next minute she's playing the 4 or the 5. And they really move people around. So, really understanding concepts for them and personnel is just as important as what are they going to run? Because you could defend it in practice, guarding the wing, and then all of a sudden your player starts on the low block just because they, are I mean, it's pretty impressive how I feel like there are a lot of kids on their team that really know kind of their set plays from 3, 4, and 5 positions.
Does prep help when you have common opponents to look at off of film, or is that a non-factor?
The nice part about common opponents is more driven by, okay, stylistically, who do we most compare to? It's easy to play 5 guards against TCU because a lot of times they play 5 guards. But, what are they doing against Texas when they're double big? And so they played more zone. And so you're kind of like trying to analyze in some ways who you're most like. You're looking at last year, even though, we both have different personnel. You start to see what did they think would work against us? What did they think really on both ends of the court? What do they think? And so obviously they're different. At times they were really big with Vivian Gray at the 3, and we had to go big to match them because, she was a problem for us. And now, they're going to have Farrell and Breamber Scott at the 4-5 a lot of the time. And so now they're probably the most like Maryland in that situation where all of a sudden they truly are playing 5 guards and not forwards who are capable of playing on the perimeter or centers that are capable of shooting it, but truly, have played the guard spot kind of their whole career.
What do you see from Breamber? You mentioned her. I guess she's new to them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we saw her a little last year, but she was in and out of injuries. She was on every scout we had until the last one. So, we were kind of always aware of her, just didn't know, like, if she would go or not. Probably the way people wonder about Asia. Is she going to play or not? Should we put her on the scout or not? That last year was a little bit Breamber, but I think she's a really good downhill player who's very 3-point capable. She plays with an intensity and isn't going to back down. I think she's got a little of that probably from her Mississippi State days with Vic but I think she's been pretty central to their success, especially in Big 12 play in terms of how aggressive she is, getting to the foul line. I think in general it's a big key in the game. You have to keep them off the foul line. They're wins versus losses. They get there more. They shoot it well regardless. So it's about the volume that they get, because they're going to make them because they're a really good free throw shooting team. So, it's about, she'll post up when you put smaller people on her. She'll take threes and attack you off the bounce a lot. That's probably what I'm most worried about, is her in space, driving it from the perimeter. So I think that's the challenge with her. She's really physical. She'll take a bump and get 3-point plays.
Jamie's been in double figures for 4 out of the last 5 games. How
Yeah, I mean, I think for us to be good in general, we've got to stay consistent on the perimeter. You know, they have the most, you know, outside of obviously Kate, you know, we get the most veteran-ness from our guards, you know, and I think really in a lot of ways, you know, Jamie has to be able to stretch the floor and make threes. We've got to get Jaden back to being a little bit more of an offensive option. I think that's hurt us more than anything, not because she's incapable, but maybe hasn't knocked down some shots, hasn't been as aggressive. Like, we need her to aggressively search the paint for us and not just score it, but set other people up. She still continued to get assists, but we need her to put more downhill pressure. I think, you know, she has the ability. She's fast enough to really attack in the 94, but also, you know, sideline to sideline. I think she has to make up her mind. I thought she had almost the play of the game when she crossed over against Rory and left her in her dust, but then instead of attacking, she settled kind of for a fadeaway jump shot. And, you know, we got to attack that Big 12. We got to attack the logo and then make reads from there.
How do you help someone like Jaden kind of get back into that mindset of?
You got to challenge her because obviously we've lost 3 of 4, and you know she hasn't impacted us very much in any of those games offensively. And you know, I think one of our strengths and when our success has come, it's been balance. She doesn't have to go get 20, you know, but getting 8 and 6 or you know 6 and 8, you know, but being aggressive. Not playing sideways, but truly playing, you know, kind of north and south and making good decisions. You know, you can't fear turning the basketball over. I mean, obviously, I talk a lot about turnovers, and turnovers drive me crazy. But if you're gonna be aggressive, you can't fear turnovers. You got to drive it to score, and then you got to be able to read the D. You know, and I thought against Texas. It was decision making. You know, she was picking her dribble up. Sometimes her last dribble was at the 3-point line. Sometimes it was at the elbow. Like, she needed all the time one more dribble. Then you can make read, layup, ball side kick out, weed side kick out. You know, but that congestion that Texas has, you know, it was kind of like you know, it was like one more dribble. She needed on almost every possession when she was attacking. She needed to put one more dribble on the floor, and then I think her decisions would have been a lot easier. When you want to pick the ball up and make decisions at the 3-point line or kind of 1-2 from the 3-point line, then you limit your options. And I mean, I think Texas will ball side help, but you know they're going to come from the backside as well. Texas Tech is going to ball side help and take charges. So, you know, playing off 2 feet and making simple plays, you know, will get us shots.
You mentioned the 3 of 4 there, and that's kind of generated outside noise from an per se. How do you navigate that and keep that from going into the locker room?
I mean, I don't. In all honesty, I learned last year here at Baylor that I stay the heck off of social media. So I can't tell you what's being said or not said because, you know, I learned very, very quickly that, you know, I just had to do my job and to please my bosses and to work for my team. And what other people say, you know, I can't control that. You know, I mean, believe me, after every game, I'm the hardest critic there is. So I don't worry about what anybody else says. And I actually know what happens in the locker room, and I know what happens on the practice court. And I know that, you know, you have to grow as a player. You've got to grow as a coach. You got to figure out your team. You know, I've said it, and I just don't use it as an excuse. But we certainly thought we'd have, you know, 2 all-SEC players, you know, in our lineup, and we haven't. And I think we've understood we had to move past that, and we have. But it's still a challenge when you're playing against all these teams that are. You know, Texas Tech is about the only other team in our league that puts a couple freshmen out there. And it's why we just seem to take turns of who's going to win Freshman of the Week, whether it's Maupin and Shavers or Bella or Bugs. And so, you know, we just have to continue to want to get better. You know, I look back at that game and think, you know, ironically, and nobody knows this, but I challenge myself, like, when they went on a 4-0 to start the third, I should have used the timeout. Now, I'm very protective of my timeouts, and I got to be better. I love timeouts. I think when you get in late game situations, having that full allotment and being able to advance and all those things, but it doesn't matter if you don't get to that. You don't get to that opportunity. So I should have called a timeout when it was 4-0. I tried to call a timeout. I went from half court all the way down the sideline chasing officials to get a timeout when it was an 8-0 run, and we ended up hitting a 3, and they never heard me. So I didn't end up taking one, but I tried. We just were playing fast and ended up hitting a 3. So then all of a sudden, are you really going to take the timeout after you've just made a 3? Probably not. So. That's the adjustment I have to make with this team from a maturity perspective in these situations when teams go on runs. I need to be in control and not assume that they're going to, make the right play in that moment. And so, I just think 3 of 4, I look at the men. They started 0-3, and now they've won 4 in a row. Like, you have the ability every time you step out on the court. I firmly have said this. I've said this, since November before we ever played a Big 12 game. I think we're good enough to win every game. I think we're capable of losing every game in this league or any game, not every game, but any game. And so, we just have to get ourselves back in the win column and build our confidence and keep trying to get better at what we do on both ends of the court.
To build off that, do you feel like the break from a game came at a good time?
No, honestly, no. 2 days off, and you never get days off in the season in coaching. It just means we go recruiting. But the players, got to get 2 days away, from the game. And so I don't know, maybe that helps some of them. For me, it just, a 2-day break after a loss, I just think you want to get right back on the horse and ride. And so do I think it was at a good time? No. Physically, was it a good time? It's always hard to say. I think that personally this time of year, you have 2 games a week. Occasionally, you could say you have 3 and 7. If you have a tight turnout on Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday type of situation. But you're going to have a regular day off. You're going to always have 2-day prep. I think there's a rhythm in conference play. And so, I just, we've talked about even future scheduling and what future scheduling looks like. And, this idea of do we lose the bye week when we have more teams in our league? When we have an imbalanced schedule, do we use that so that we can play a big marquee matchup in January? Something that Baylor has consistently done in the past with a Connecticut type game or some kind of a challenge like the men are playing where all of a sudden, you kind of lose that idea of a bye week. So the bye week's great from a recruiting perspective, especially for head coaches because you have a hard time wanting to miss practice to go recruiting. But, yeah, I wouldn't say it was at a good time.
Did that help in terms of Asia at all, or
No.
not really her situation?
No.
2,033 seconds.
Questionable illegal screen, can I say? Questionable.